Welcome everyone to the State of Influencer Marketing on YouTube. I'm Lori Sobel, Managing Director and Global Head of Business for YouTube BrandConnect, formerly known as FameBit. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, we are Google's branded content platform. And as you just heard from a few of our top creators, we recently announced our evolution to YouTube BrandConnect. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the current state of affairs when it comes to influencer marketing. And I couldn't be more thrilled to have Dan Markham, creator of the YouTube channel What's Inside, and Ashley Abrahamson, brand manager at Cottonelle, here to join me in this discussion. Welcome, Dan and Ashley. So before we dive in, Dan, let's take a quick look at your awesome channel.
All right, school project time.
I'm Lincoln, this is Dan.
We're gonna cut open VR headsets.
Not the shoe surgeon. What do you mean blind?
Don't touch them together!
Welcome back to What's Inside. Today we are going to see what's inside of my bedroom.
These are an unfair improvement over normal running shoes.
Whoa! Yeah!
Just about having fun. We're having so much fun in each one of the videos.
See how long it takes us in a Tesla when we have to stop. The launch is happening, yes! And we made it. Ah! First things first, do you know how to drive this thing?
Get some cool B-roll of us.
Did you say Nick for Nike?
Nike.
And we are moving from this house to our new house.
Wow, it's so amazing to see everything you've done on YouTube, Dan. Thanks for sharing that. Now, we're all spending a ton of time at home and watching more content than ever. Me personally, I'm currently loving Boho Beautiful, who is an amazing yoga instructor and really helping me stay balanced during these times. Dan, what are you watching right now?
It was fun to watch that, see all these videos for all the years. It's funny how they just compile, and anyway, that was fun. But anyway, right now I am into golf content. I love during this whole interesting time where the world is kind of shut down. Golf is one thing where people can still go outside and do very safely. And so Eric Anders Lang is, I think, the king of golf on YouTube. He has a channel called Random Golf Club Films, and he travels to the most unique places and plays golf in these crazy places. So even as a family, we've been watching some of his footage. So yeah, golf videos.
I love that. My husband and son are really getting into golf, so I'll have to recommend that channel.
Nice.
Ashley, what about you?
Yeah, I think like most people, when COVID hit and we realized we were going to be staying inside a bit longer than maybe we anticipated, I searched for a new hobby. And for that, I turned to YouTube and I turned to my hair. I started the curly girl method, and I found myself watching tons of influencers washing and styling their hair, all while learning the method myself in such easy, quick formats. There's one influencer in particular, S-Wavy Curly Courtney, that I watch constantly. And as soon as she launches a video, I watch it immediately. So I highly recommend.
I too have turned to YouTube for haircut tips, as I never thought I would be cutting my husband's hair. Luckily, it turned out okay, though. Speaking of our new realities, 2020 has introduced a new normal across the board. From our perspective, we saw changes in how viewers consume content and their interests overall. And as a result, creators' videos are really reflecting both day-to-day experiences and pivotal moments. Let's look at some insights that we've uncovered. YouTube is thriving right now as creators look to keep themselves and their fans entertained. Thanks to this, YouTube is the #1 platform Americans have been using during COVID for fresh, new, and unique content. In fact, it's 3 times the competitive average and 2 times more than satellite and cable. And as people continue to stay at home, they are watching 25% more news, 17% less sports, and 27% more creator content. Throughout the pandemic, YouTube has also acted as a time capsule during these unprecedented times. We've seen a wide range of content that reflects the realities of what we're all experiencing, from minor moments like learning to fix your dishwasher, as I too have turned to YouTube for, to major cultural moments and social activism as seen with Black Lives Matter. So if you zoom in closer on the timeline, you will see that from March to April, stay-at-home orders transformed the Get Ready With Me trend into Get Ready With Me to Go Nowhere, and coffee drink recipes surged as people became their own baristas. Then when we look at May and June, we saw a period of change and movement in more ways than one. Social activism ignited fresh creator formats and fundraisers. And as the weather got nicer, we started to see actually a surge in bike repair videos. More recently, in July and August, a new back-to-school reality hit, and consumers started watching back-to-school shopping hauls. These are just a few of the insights we're seeing, and it's clear these video views are a reflection of the day-to-day changes in our new normal. Now let's hear from Dan and Ashley on what they are seeing and experiencing. Dan, let's talk about fans. How engaged are they right now? And are you seeing any big changes in the way they react to or engage with your content?
You know, the fans are still incredibly engaged, maybe more than ever. One of the things I think is a little different is that it really is a lot of family viewing where they're spending time watching some of our older videos that maybe haven't popped off in a couple of years, but now they want to see some of our videos where we toured really unique places. We have a VR 180 video where we went up the Washington Monument, and people are watching videos like that where they can feel like they are escaping a bit from staying at home and going out. And then now that school has been starting back up in a lot of places, teachers have been using our content and families have been using our content even for some of their homeschool learning just to learn some things and to be like basically entertained and educational at the same time. So that's been one thing that's been nice. And then lastly, we started selling merch for the first time, and it's only been a couple of things. We sold backpacks for back to school and then water bottles like hydro flasks for them to use when they go back to school. And it's been fun because in 6 years of doing YouTube, we've never actually connected with our fans on that level. And now they're sending us pictures of them going back to school and staying safe with the things that they have that we ended up providing for them and having the what's inside on there. So it's been a fun time, even though I know it's been a different time.
Absolutely. I love that. We'd also like to hear how your approach to actually creating content has evolved this year. And if you can touch on the greatest challenges you faced when it comes to navigating brand partnerships, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So it definitely has impacted us in a lot of ways because, like I said a minute ago, like we do travel a lot for our videos and we show unique places and we get really cool opportunities. For example, we've worked with Mercedes-Benz a bunch of times and they just came out with a couple of new cars, and typically they would send us out to Germany and we would test out their cars or go to Norway and test it out. And now we're kind of at home, just staying in our even in the United States. There's certain places we can't travel to. We have a video at the Statue of Liberty that we're looking to film where we tour the inside of it. We're waiting for a couple of things. One, I want to get approval to like climb up the arm up to where the torch is. It's like a 42-foot ladder. And so we're getting approval for that. But then the other thing is, if I travel from Utah to New York, there's a 14-day quarantine once you hit New York. It's one of 31 states that are quarantined. So it definitely limits the travel. And the last thing that we want to do, and a lot of any YouTuber wants to do, is make content that isn't authentic to their brand and to what they do. And so I would say we've probably published less videos over the last 6 months. But when we do publish it, it's authentic, it's real, it's fun. And there's only so many videos you can do at home and keeping it authentic and real. But as far as working with brands, we've had to change some of the ways that we do things. It's been fun though, because a lot of traditional companies that don't do influencer marketing in the past are now coming on board and promoting their products that are things that you would need when you're at home. And so that's been kind of fun to highlight some of the products that traditionally we haven't worked with before. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting time, but fun.
That's great. It sounds like a unique opportunity. Okay, let's switch gears to Ashley. We'd love to hear from you about how you've pivoted your approach in digital with the onset of COVID, particularly at a moment when toilet paper was one of the hottest COVID commodities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a brand, Cottonelle has been leading digital and leaning into this space pretty heavily. But when COVID hit, we actually paused all of our advertising spend so that we could evaluate the marketplace and understand the impact it was having to our consumers. And when we saw toilet paper supply hit an all-time low, we knew we couldn't just push out what we had planned. We had to pivot our approach and not do something that was traditional. I saw my team go from an idea to market execution with the launch of the Share Square program. We monitored our advertising spend and our media plans daily sometimes, but weekly more often, to keep on top of mind what we had planned. We watched consumer behavior trend go strongly into digital and online video and audio. And we waited to hear from consumers that we had the right to have a voice. Consumers wanted to hear from brands. Consumers thought brands should have a meaningful and helpful conversation during this time, and we reacted accordingly. We heavied up in new areas within digital and audio. We spent more in there, and I'm so happy to be a part of this team and how we really pivoted our approach this year.
That's incredible. And I love how you were making sure that the consumers' voices were heard and really pivoted based upon that. And what has been your greatest learning looking back at the first half of 2020?
I think, piggybacking off of that last answer, I thought I knew what agile marketing meant, and then COVID hit. And I don't think anyone could have prepared us what it was like to market toilet paper during this pandemic. We are in a category that's often called, commoditized, and consumers aren't engaged in our category. But what we saw was that consumers were actually having an emotional reaction to toilet paper during this time. And they signaled to us that having toilet paper in their home provided them a sense of security. And so we had to react in that way. And I'm incredibly proud of our team, from pausing our advertising to listen, to launching our Inspiring Share a Square program, to doubling down on flushability efforts when consumers were nervous about finding safe to flush solutions when their normal products weren't available. We reacted to the marketplace instead of pushing out our planned tactics. And I'm incredibly proud to say that to me is holistic marketing. I now know it's not just pushing out a social post, but it really was being agile with all of our advertising spend. And doing this when we were all working from home and figuring out a new way of working ourselves, and often with a toddler on my lap. I learned a lot and able to only take that into the future.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. I think it's sounds like your team really did an amazing job just pivoting through this all. And I know we've all needed to learn how to be a bit more agile. Speaking of, Ashley, you were all set for our first YouTube BrandConnect partnership, and then COVID hit. So to start things off, will you set the stage for this campaign? And what were Cottonelle's key goals and objectives?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we wrote this brief, we had two pillars of communication that we wanted to get out there. The first one was about discussing and normalizing having a down there care routine. Asking the simple question, why don't we care for the skin that we don't see like we care for the skin that we do see? And people have a bathroom routine, so why don't we talk about it? And we wanted influencers to share that message, to get the conversation going, and to highlight that it's important to have a refreshing clean that only Cottonelle can provide. The second pillar of communication was a bit more of a scientific approach, where we needed trusted influencers like Dan and What's Inside to put our flushable wipes to the test and prove that they're 100% flushable. There's a lot of false news article out there about flushable wipes and misunderstandings about our product. And we needed influencers to help change that conversation in a fun and entertaining way. Our goals for this were to get eyeballs on the videos in the right demographic for our audience, and particularly unduplicated views. And we wanted to see that in lifts in consideration, awareness, and favorability.
How did COVID-19 impact this campaign? And can you talk us through how your approach evolved, given everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, we stopped all of our advertising once COVID hit. And at that time, we actually had the majority of our influencer videos already created and approved and ready to go. But we didn't want our influencers posting content that wasn't relevant to the current conversation or to their viewers, and didn't want them posting content that was promoting a product that consumers weren't able to find on shelf. So we rewatched all the videos and gave the influencers a few choices. One being they could reshoot or re-record the video to make it relevant. So for example, if the influencer posted content or recorded themselves going into the gym, that wasn't going to be relevant right now, knowing consumers were no longer going to a gym.
Absolutely.
And if shooting the video wasn't an option, like What's Inside, because it was so essential to the video, we asked the influencers to add a disclaimer in the front of the video talking about how it was produced pre-COVID and stay-at-home orders. So once we felt like we had the videos in a good spot, the BrandConnect team was amazing with checking the shopping shelf weekly to ensure that we had consistent supply. Again, not wanting to promote something that consumers weren't able to find on the shopping shelf or in stores. After that, we then as a team looked to see if our video was relevant. Did our message still matter? And what we were happy to see is that our message actually was sought after more than ever. Consumers were concerned about finding products that were safe to flush for their homes. And more than ever, self-care was rising. People were searching for new topics about self-care and getting extra clean. So our topics were more relevant than ever. So once we felt like we had the videos in a great spot, we had consistent supply for our consumers to buy, and we had a story to tell that was still relevant to the market, we all felt comfortable launching our campaign.
Great. Well, Dan, you are part of the Cottonelle campaign. Let's see how you brought this brand to life in your content.
We've got a little science experiment that we're going to do today.
Welcome back to What's Inside. I'm Lincoln and this is Dan, and today we are on the hunt for the world's largest toilet.
World's largest toilet. Today's video is sponsored by Cottonelle. They make flushable wipes and they challenged us to test those wipes versus regular wipes. We're gonna find this toilet. Let's do it. I wanted to test out these flushable wipes and figure out, do they really break down? Because supposedly they immediately break down after you flush them, where a regular baby wipe, it doesn't break down. I don't know what to expect here because it's just like a test, like does it actually break down or not? They definitely work. They are breaking down. This is a really fun little science experiment. Before I go down and show you the depths of the world's largest toilet.
I would love you to talk us through how you approach this brief and partnership. And what was your creative process?
It's funny, you get a lot of, as a YouTuber, like you get a lot of brands that reach out to you and they ask you a question and like, hey, would you like to work with us? Here's our product. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, what am I going to do with this product? How do we make a video about this? With Cottonelle, it was interesting because 8 years ago, Lincoln was a lot younger. We lived in Corrales, New Mexico in this older home. And my sister lived with us. She helped take care of the kids sometimes because my wife and I both worked. And what was funny is that when this came across, it was like, hey, these are flushable wet wipes, or flushable wipes, I should say. And a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people would probably be like, well, what does that even mean? Like, there's not as much awareness, I feel like, around the flushable wipes. Well, 8 years ago, we had a flood in our house and we had this plumber come out with this giant snake with like this huge snake with a drill on it and went down. He came up with like 20 feet of these razor teeth with all kinds of wipes on there. And he's like, you guys got to stop flushing baby wipes and feminine wipes down the toilet. I didn't even know this was a thing. I talked to my sister. Turns out she uses a lot of feminine wipes. And then sometimes she would take care of the kids and wipe and clean them and throw those in the toilet. So when this came across, I was fully aware that this is a problem that not a lot of people know about. I didn't know about it 8 years ago. So I reached out to my team and I'm like, all right, guys, how do we come up with an idea for this? What should we do to kind of have an idea that's educated, that's fun, that people will actually click on the video and watch it, but it's not just about the education on the wipes, but we could do something greater. And so one of my employees, Hunter, had a great idea. He looked it up and he's like, the world's largest toilet is in Indiana. It's at a children's museum and it has a slide that goes down through it. What if you go there and then you can talk about it and tie it in? And so anyway, I love it when we pitch ideas to brands and that may sound a little silly or weird like this, like we're going to go to a toilet and we're going to go down the slide and then we're going to work your brand in. Some brands really do get uptight and they're like, yeah, no, I just want you to talk about my product and make a commercial for me. And that's it. And so anyway, Cottonelle was really cool where they're like, yes, this is great. They just didn't have really any other feedback other than when you talk about our product, here's some of the things you could talk about. But that was it. And so we got on a plane and flew out there and it was closer to the whole stay-at-home orders. It wasn't quite there yet. We didn't know what was happening. Most of it was in like China and everything was going on. We flew and that was the first time. I think there were like 1 or 2 people on the plane with masks on and that was it. It wasn't a requirement. It wasn't even something that we talked about as much. But I remember going back after we filmed that whole day in Indiana, we went to the airport and it was just like empty in the airport. There were barely any people compared to usual. And the restaurants were still open, but people weren't traveling. And then it was about a week later, that's when everything just kind of shut down and the world changed a lot. And so we had the video edited, like Ashley said, and we sent it over to Cottonelle and to the FameBit team. And they said, this is great, we love it, but we're not going to publish it right now. And so obviously from a YouTuber side of things, I mean, there's a few different ways you could go. Some YouTubers might be like, well, we've done our work. We're done here. You guys, what are you doing waiting? But for us, like obviously this was like unmanned territory. We didn't know what the world was going to look like. We knew we loved the video and we were super excited to get it out to our fans because I knew that they would love it. Just the thumbnail alone with the world's largest toilet. But then the education piece, the entertaining part, plus content where people travel was starting to just dwindle off of YouTube. And we had something where we traveled before. So we waited. I totally understood the brand. Like there's nothing on the shelves. Why promote a product that that people can't even buy? And I love that we waited until the right time. And then the FameBit team and Cottonelle got together and said, okay, it's time. Just please put this intro at the beginning. And what's funny is I actually sent an email to FameBit and said, hey, when we do this video, we should probably put something on there. Just we can say something that this was filmed before the COVID stay-at-home orders. And they're like, that's so funny. We were already talking about this. That's perfect. So anyway, that was kind of how it went out. And we put it out maybe a couple months after, I think, is when we originally did it. And it still did well, even though we were traveling in the video, and it still was kind of a sensitive time for traveling. And for us, I love the video. I think it has close to 1 million views now, and it was a fun project. So it's fun to hear Ashley's side of it and how it went behind the scenes. For us, definitely uncharted territory, but it's nice when a brand is flexible and they understand what's going on, and they're willing to let YouTubers do their thing, even if it's as weird as a father and a son sliding down a toilet to highlight your product. So anyway, that's kind of my side of the story there. It was fun.
Well, I love the video. I have 3 younger kids, and I remember those days where the toilet was clogged by the wipes that shouldn't have gone down the toilet. So this just was very near and dear to my heart. And it sounds like your fans really loved the video as well. So with that, in a year like 2020, we know what ROI really matters, and campaign performance is critical. We are hyper-focused on helping marketers understand and measure the impact of their influencer campaigns, which was why we built tools to measure things like consumer behavior and purchase intent, amongst others. Now, Ashley, what kind of results did this campaign drive for Cottonelle? And building off of that, how do you evaluate a successful branded content campaign?
Yeah, we had fantastic results. They really did exceed all of our expectations. We exceeded our view goal by over 300%, and had 4.3 million unique views on this. We saw lifts in all 3 of our KPIs of consideration, favorability, and awareness. And we were blown away by seeing over a 4,000% lift in search after the videos were viewed. Really fantastic results just for this program. If I think about how to deem a campaign successful, I think it has to be done individually based on your brief and your individual goals for that campaign. But I think it does need to be evaluated holistically. So you have your hard KPIs you want to meet. We also have to look at consumer engagement. Did consumers share the video? Did they comment on the video? Were there positive comments? Did consumers react? And how did they react? And what did they say is also just as important to seeing some hard-hitting KPIs. Did you reach the viewers in your demographic that you wanted? So it's great that your message was out there, but did it get to the right audience that you wanted to? All of those have to be measured just as hard as your KPIs. And for us, in a time when toilet paper wasn't on shelf and consumers were buying whatever they could, and we saw low loyalty at that time, to see such a lift in consideration and favorability was very successful for us.
I'm so happy that it worked out so well. I also know this campaign featured our shopping shelf, which for those of the audience that don't know what this is, it allows viewers to shop the products they see featured in creator videos directly from the watch page. So Ashley, can you tell us about how the shelf made this campaign stand out?
Yeah, it's actually the thing that drew me to this platform. It's so unique from other platforms out there. And for us, a key shopper barrier to our flushable wipes category is that consumers actually can't find it on the shelf, whether they don't know what aisle it's in, or once they're in the right aisle, there's such big packages surrounding it, it just gets lost sometimes. And so to be able to provide our consumers an easy, direct link to purchase the product is ideal. And something that we hadn't seen before. And as we discussed, COVID hit our supply, right? And we didn't have it on the shelf. but we still saw click-through rate reach benchmark levels during a time when there wasn't supply. So I can't wait to see what could happen when supply normals out.
Me too. So you'll have to do another campaign with us. So we spent our time so far reflecting on 2020. I'd like to now shift our focus to what the future of influencer marketing looks like. Now, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but we do have Google Trends. And one thing we know for sure is that the holiday spirit is starting earlier this year. Case in point, All I Want for Christmas Is You searches on YouTube have increased 100% in the last 30 days. Pretty incredible given that we are still in September. So with that in mind, let's take a quick look at what you should be doing to prepare for the holiday shopping season. There are 3 things to keep in mind. 1, this season is going to be demand driven. So what do I mean by that? Customers have dealt with limited inventory and delayed shipping for major holidays like Easter and Mother's Day. So to avoid this, many consumers are planning to shop earlier to ensure their items are in stock. And because of this, we are already seeing many retailers move up their promotion and sales calendar to start in late September, early October. So we're recommending that brands start early with creator content and take advantage of our features like video cut downs to help amplify your brand message and remarketing lists to help convert in-market consumers, ultimately driving more sales for the holiday season. Secondly, marketing strategies should be audience-led. The majority of our consumers are open to trying new brands and categories, so keep in mind there could be new audiences that you have never thought of that would consider your product. And through our audience-based matchmaking, we can pair your brands up with creators who can unlock new audiences to help you achieve your marketing objectives. And finally, consumers are thinking digital first. This is really interesting times. E-commerce will be a source of growth as the vast majority of consumers will be shopping online this year. This means in-store experiences will no longer be the primary channel that consumers discover new products. So we anticipate this to continue into holiday, and the shopping shelf, which we discussed earlier, can help connect content to commerce as fans can convert directly from the watch page. So let's shift to Dan and Ashley on the future of branded content. Dan, how do you see this space evolving throughout the rest of 2020 and beyond? And can you talk a little bit about how you see yourself partnering with brands in the next 6 to 12 months or so?
Yeah, I think a lot has changed. And the good news is, at least for the influencer side of things, is I think companies are more on board to do influencer deals and work with influencers in order to sell their products. But I remember when we used to do deals with FameBit back before Google even owned it. And it was the smallest little companies ever. Like I remember we did a deal with a Rubik's Cube company once. That was it, like this guy that sold Rubik's Cubes. And so the reason why I bring that up is because now that Google owns FameBit and now it's becoming BrandConnect, I feel like the stigma around working with influencers has been taken away from a lot of big marketing companies and a lot of like chief marketing officers for big traditional companies. Because Google, and this isn't a commercial for Google, I'm just saying this, but like I feel like with Google, because they're able to provide like really good lawyers that work with the influencers to make sure that things are done in a way that is going to work for the brand and work for the YouTuber. There's been enough big brands that have worked with FameBit that now they all are starting to want to get into it. And so it's been an interesting year because everything got slow for about 3 months as far as like brands reaching out. And in the last month and a half, it's gotten crazy busy. I've talked to some of my other YouTube friends, and some of them are already fully booked for influencer like brand deals between now and the end of the year. And what's cool is that it is a lot of companies that I haven't seen before, like whether it's toilet paper, like we talked about, or toothpaste or TVs. There's a lot of products that are things that people need at their home that they need to buy. And like you said, they need to buy it early because it's maybe hard to ship things later down the road. Who knows what's going to happen with the election? There's just a lot of unknowns that are going on right now. And so as an influencer, it's a great time. We've been kind of picking who we want to work with, brands that fit. Just because one company reaches out, and even if they have a good budget, it doesn't mean we're going to do something with them, because we want to make sure that the videos that we do are incredibly authentic and fun and something that we'd enjoy doing. And if we enjoy it, our fans are probably going to like it. And so between now and the next 6 to 12 months, I think things are going to change as a lot of companies try to get in the mix and try to get in this space. I've heard from people at other companies like Facebook and TikTok and Twitter where they've wished that they had something like FameBit with all of the data, all of the connections to these influencers, and a safe way to present data back to the brands. And so anyway, so I'm a big believer in FameBit, and I'm super appreciative and grateful because they've kind of raised, what is that thing about the boats, all tides raise all boats or whatever. They've basically made it so that it's a more acceptable thing to do to have brands work with influencers. And that helps all of us, whether it's one of my competitors, which we don't have, like another YouTuber getting a deal with a company, or us. I'm just grateful that it's more acceptable now. And so those brands that jump in and take advantage and use the tools and do it in the right way, I think are really going to succeed and have a huge Q4. And then also going into 2021 are going to see a big lift in their sales.
Absolutely. And, what we're seeing in the influencer marketing space as well, I think brands are leaned in more than ever. So it's really exciting for creators because they know that your audiences are so loyal and they really trust everything that you guys say and you're authentic. So I'm really excited as well to see what the second half of this year in 2021 looks like. And so I'm going to pivot to Ashley. Given your learnings this year, how are you thinking about planning your influencer marketing campaigns? And how does branded content factor into this 2021 planning?
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the middle of our 21 planning right now and development, and influencer marketing, digital, all the campaigns certainly have a role in 2021. Looking at our results this year, how could we not want to jump on that for next year? As we think about what is the new normal, and people are getting comfortable with the new normal, we don't see that shifting away from influencer marketing. We don't see that shift away from digital. We just see that growing. So it absolutely fits within our brand. What I think was great and is still great about the BrandConnect team is that it really was a partnership with us, and the useful recommendations and learnings that they provided us are just allowing us to create such an impactful brief for 2021 that I can't wait to see what the results look like, because we're able to get more specific. We're able to see what worked this year, where we have opportunities for next year into our 2021 planning. So I think it would be foolish not to say that this doesn't have a role in 2021 for any brand.
Great. One last question before we wrap up our session. Can you actually just share one piece of advice for the audience when it comes to influencer marketing?
Yeah, I really love this question because I think the answer is really simple. Let the influencer tell your message in their tone of voice and their personality. When we kicked off wanting to do an influencer campaign this year, we reviewed multiple platforms. And when we narrowed down our platforms, I probably personally looked at 200 to 300 different influencers to find ones that had a unique voice, to find partners that had messaging that we could seamlessly fit in our message, and the ones that had followers that we wanted to reach. When we picked our 8 BrandConnect influencers this year, we did that because they were unique, they were authentic, they had a voice that we really liked and wanted to tap into. But I think as a brand marketer, it's not always easy to approve something that's not in your brand's tone of voice, or the messaging isn't 100% how you would have said it. And I can honestly say that I approved content that probably pushed some boundaries within my organization this year, but the results speak for themselves. So I think at the end of the day, the advice is to loosen your brand hat a little bit. Remember why you partnered with influencers you did, and let them create content.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. And with that, we've come to the conclusion of our session. Thank you so much, Dan and Ashley, for sharing your incredible insights with us. And as a quick closing reminder, YouTube BrandConnect goes beyond just facilitating creator content. So we've designed a full service offering to bring a better branded content experience to brands, creators, and viewers. So if you're interested in learning more about YouTube influencer marketing, please feel free to reach out to your Google point of contact. And finally, a big thanks to the audience for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed our session.